The crystal towers of Kethara once sparkled like diamonds across 3 continents, their surfaces humming with the gentle songs of the Velathi people. For thousands of years, this peaceful race had built their entire civilization around living crystals that grew from their very bodies. These weren't just decorations or tools. The crystals were part of them, storing memories, powering their cities, and connecting every Velathi to their community through shared crystalline networks. But now those same life-giving crystals were killing them. Elder Hyunwoo pressed his translucent hand against the communication console, watching helplessly as another district went dark on the planetary map. The plague had started small, just a few crystals turning black and cracking. Within weeks it spread like wildfire through their crystalline networks. Infected Velathi writhed in agony as their own crystal formations turned against them, becoming toxic and eventually shattering completely. The worst part wasn't the pain, it was watching their civilization crumble. When a Velathi died, their crystals usually remained, becoming part of the great archives that preserved their history and knowledge. Now, even the dead crystals dissolved into poisonous dust, taking millennia of wisdom with them. Hyunwoo remembered. When Kethara housed 50 billion souls. Today maybe a few 100,000 remained, scattered across emergency shelters, their crystalline cities abandoned and rotting. For 8 long months, they had broadcast distress signals across the galaxy. 8 months of desperate pleas for help, medical assistance, or even just sanctuary for their survivors. The responses they received were worse than silence. The mighty hegemony, which claimed to protect lesser species, had sent a cold, diplomatic message expressing concern, while immediately quarantining all trade routes to Velathi space. They claimed fear of contamination, but everyone knew they simply didn't want to risk their precious resources on a dying race. The Trade Federation had been more honest in their cruelty. Their reply was brief and brutal. No profit margin in helping the Velathi. Too much risk, too little reward. They suggested the Velathi liquidate their remaining crystal technology assets before total collapse. The militant Corvan Empire had laughed at their weakness. Their war chief sent a mocking transmission, calling the Velathi crystal insects too fragile to deserve survival. They promised to claim Velathi territory once the plague finished, what war never could. Even species they had helped in the past turned away. The aquatic Dralaxi, whose homeworld the Velathi had saved from asteroid impact just 50 years ago, suddenly stopped answering their calls. Former allies pretended not to receive their transmissions. Hyunwoo had watched his peoples, hope die along with their crystals. Children who should have been learning to sing with their first crystal growths instead lay in medical centers, their formations black and spreading. Parents who once shared memories through crystal touch could no longer connect without excruciating pain. The communication array flickered weakly, its crystal core nearly depleted. Soon even their ability to call for help would end. Hyunwoo prepared to record one final message, not a plea for rescue, but a farewell to the galaxy that had abandoned them. His webbed fingers trembled as he began the shutdown sequence. The massive crystal formation that powered their last functioning city would need every bit of energy just to keep life support running for another few weeks. Then something impossible happened. A voice crackled through the static, rough, alien, but unmistakably trying to speak Velathi. The pronunciation was terrible, the grammar broken, but the words were clear enough to understand. Hello, Velathi people. This is Human Ship Harmony. We hear your call for help. How can we assist? Hyunwoo stared at the console in shock. Humans? He had never heard of this species. They weren't in any of the galactic databases, weren't part of any major alliance or trade network. Who were these mysterious beings? And why were they responding when every major power had turned away? The transmission continued, the alien voice struggling with their language, but radiating genuine concern. We are sorry for bad speaking. We use translation machine, learning your words. Please respond if you can hear. We want to help. For the first time in months, Hyunwoo felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. Dr. Sujin had never seen anything like the emergency briefing that changed everything. She was enjoying her morning coffee in the medical research facility on Lunar Station when the alert came through. Within minutes, every major news network was broadcasting the same incredible story. Humanity had made first contact with a dying alien civilization. The images were heartbreaking. Crystal beings that looked like living gemstones, their once beautiful cities now dark and cracking, children with crystal formations growing black on their translucent skin. Families huddled together as their shared crystal networks failed, cutting them off from each other forever. Most shocking was learning that the entire galaxy had already turned its back on these people. Advanced civilizations with technology, centuries ahead of humanity, had simply ignored the Velathi pleas for help. The reasons varied: fear, greed, politics, but the result was the same. An entire species left to die alone. Captain Jiho's response had been immediate and simple. We're going to help them. No political debates, no cost-benefit analysis, no committees to form. Just a straightforward human decision to do what was right. Within hours, Dr. Sujin found herself leading the largest medical mission in human history. The challenges were enormous. They knew almost nothing about Velathi biology, had no idea if their medicine would even work on crystal-based life forms, and were racing against time across impossible distances. But that was just the beginning. What happened next proved something special about humanity that even they didn't fully understand. Engineer Minho was supposed to be on vacation, visiting his family in Seoul. Instead, he spent 3 straight days in the orbital shipyards, working, with teams around the clock to modify cargo ships for medical transport. They stripped out everything unnecessary and packed the vessels with equipment they weren't even sure would work. My grandmother always said helping strangers brings good karma, Minho told reporters, who asked why he was giving up his time off. Besides, what if it was us out there? Wouldn't we want someone to come? Teacher Ye-jin was preparing plans for her elementary class when she saw the news footage of young Velathi crystals turning black. Something about those alien children struck her heart. She couldn't speak their language or understand their biology, but suffering was universal. She gathered her students that afternoon and explained the situation in simple terms. There are children far away who are very sick and scared. Their families are sad. Even though they're different from us, they need to know someone cares. What followed amazed even Ye-jin. Her students, barely old enough to write properly, spent their lunch breaks creating drawings and simple gifts. They made paper flowers, wrote messages with help translating into broken Velathi, and even recorded songs they hoped might comfort alien children they would never meet. The story spread across social media like wildfire. Within days, similar projects emerged in schools worldwide. Children in Brazil drew pictures of Earth's animals to show the Velathi the beauty of their world. Students in Nigeria learned to fold origami cranes with wishes for healing attached. Kids in remote villages in Mongolia contributed handmade crafts, their teachers explaining that kindness needed no translation. But it wasn't just children. Factories retooled production lines to manufacture medical equipment. Universities opened their laboratories for round-the-clock research into crystal-based biology. Retired doctors volunteered for the dangerous journey to an unknown world where they might face diseases they couldn't cure. The most touching moment came when the fleet was ready to depart. Thousands gathered at the launch sites, not for a celebration but for what felt like a prayer. Families who had never heard of the Velathi 3 days earlier now wore crystal-shaped pins and carried signs reading, "Bring them home." When the first human ships dropped out of hyperspace near Kethara, the few remaining Velathi thought they were hallucinating. The massive vessels bore no resemblance to the sleek, advanced ships of the galactic powers. These looked rough, hastily modified, held together by determination rather than sophisticated engineering. Elder Hyunwoo could barely believe the readings as ship after ship appeared. Not a small diplomatic mission or a token gesture. This was a full-scale rescue operation. Cargo holds packed with medical supplies, teams of volunteer doctors, and something no other species had offered: genuine hope. The communication from Captain Jiho was simple and direct. "We're here to help. Tell us what you need." As the first shuttles landed on Kethara's crystal-dusted surface, something unprecedented happened. The Velathi, who had lived for millennia, believing they were alone in caring about other species, discovered they had been wrong. Somewhere in the galaxy, there existed a young race that would cross impossible distances to help complete strangers, asking for nothing in return except the chance to do what was right. The rescue had begun. The medical tent buzzed with nervous energy as Dr. Sujin stared at her first Velathi patient. Healer Zaranis stood beside her, her crystalline body flickering with soft blue light that indicated deep concern. Neither species had ever attempted to treat the other, and the stakes couldn't be higher. "Your scanners see things ours cannot," Zaranis said, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "But you do not understand how our life crystals connect to our essence." Dr. Sujin nodded, running her medical scanner over the infected crystal formations, spreading across the patient's arm. The readings made no sense. Every test showed the crystals were healthy, perfect atomic structure, no viral or bacterial contamination, no signs of genetic damage. Yet they were clearly dying, turning black and cracking before their eyes. "This is impossible," Sujin muttered, checking her equipment again. "According to everything we know about biology, your patient should be perfectly fine." For 3 frustrating days, human doctors and Velathi healers worked side by side, sharing knowledge that seemed completely incompatible. Humans approached medicine with technology and chemistry. Velathi healing involved harmony and resonance, concepts that human science barely recognized. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Taehyun wasn't even supposed to be in the medical tent. As a quantum physicist, he was part of the team studying Velathi technology. But overhearing the doctor's discussions, something clicked in his mind. "What if you're looking at this wrong?" he interrupted, ignoring the annoyed glances from the medical team. "You keep treating this like biological disease, but what if it's not biological at all?" He pulled up his quantum resonance readings from the Velathi city structures. "Look at these patterns. The crystal formations in your cities are experiencing quantum decoherence. Their atomic particles are losing synchronization." Zaranis gasped, her crystals flashing bright white with sudden understanding. The great song, is becoming discord." Taehyun and Zaranis worked through the night, combining human quantum physics with Velathi harmonic theory. What they discovered changed everything. The plague wasn't attacking the Velathi bodies, it was disrupting the quantum frequencies that held their crystal matrices together. Like a radio slowly losing its signal, their life force was literally falling out of tune. "We need to recalibrate their quantum signatures," Taehyun explained to the amazed medical team. "It's not medicine they need, it's music therapy at the subatomic level." While the scientists worked on a cure, something equally important was happening throughout the refugee camps. Cultural barriers that had seemed impossible were dissolving through simple human kindness. Kiratel was one of the youngest Velathi survivors, barely equivalent to a human teenager. Her crystal formations were still growing, making her especially vulnerable to the plague. She spent most days in the medical tent, scared and alone, watching the black veins slowly spread across her translucent skin. Volunteer teacher Hyejin noticed the young Velathi sitting by herself and approached carefully. Despite the language barrier, Hyejin had brought something universal, picture books from Earth. "These are stories about humans who never gave up," Hyejin explained, using the translation device to convert her words into musical tones the Velathi could understand. She showed Kiratel images of humans climbing impossible mountains, surviving in frozen wastelands, rebuilding after disasters. The young Velathi was fascinated not by the achievements, but by something else entirely. "Why do they continue when success seems impossible?" Kiratel asked, her voice like tinkling bells. "Because that's what humans do," Hyejin replied simply. "We believe tomorrow can be better than today, even when today is terrible." This simple conversation sparked something remarkable. Kiratel began sharing Velathi stories with Hyejin, tales of crystal gardens that took centuries to grow, of patience and harmony that humans found almost incomprehensible. Yet somehow, both species found common ground in their stories of overcoming hardship. Meanwhile, Engineer Minho was having his own breakthrough. Frustrated by trying to repair Velati buildings with human tools, he had been listening to Zaranis explain how their construction worked through harmonic resonance. "So you literally sing your buildings into existence?" Minho asked incredulously. "Not sing as you understand it," Zaranis replied patiently. "We create vibrations that encourage crystal growth in specific patterns." Minho, who had played guitar since childhood, understood vibrations better than most engineers. On impulse, he hummed a simple tune near a damaged crystal formation. To everyone's amazement, the crystal responded, its cracks slowly beginning to seal. Within hours, Minho had gathered every musically inclined human in the rescue mission. They formed an unlikely choir, learning to produce the specific frequencies that encouraged Velati crystal repair. It was clumsy at first. Human voices were never designed for crystal harmonics, but the intent was clear. The sight of humans standing in the ruins of Velati cities, singing damaged buildings back to life, became one of the most powerful symbols of the rescue mission. Here were two completely different species, finding ways to help each other despite every logical barrier. As word spread throughout the galaxy, other civilizations watched in growing amazement and shame. These primitive humans were accomplishing what advanced species had declared impossible, not through superior technology, but through sheer determination to bridge any gap for the sake of those who needed help. Trust was growing between the species. One small breakthrough at a time. The breakthrough had come just in time. Dr. Sujin watched with tears in her eyes as the first successfully treated Velati patient sat up, her crystal formations glowing with healthy blue light for the first time in months. Taehyun's quantum frequency treatment was working, slowly but surely reversing the deadly plague that had almost destroyed an entire civilization. Throughout the refugee camps, hope was returning. Human volunteers worked alongside recovering Velati, teaching them new harmonics while learning the ancient crystal songs. Children from both species played together, creating beautiful hybrid melodies that made the air shimmer with impossible colors. Then the warships arrived. Captain Jiho was in the command center reviewing supply reports when his communications officer's face went pale. "Sir, we have 12 massive vessels dropping out of hyperspace. They're Corvan Empire battleships." The Corvan Empire was everything humans had heard about and more. Their ships looked like flying fortresses, bristling with weapons designed to crack planets. These weren't explorers or traders. They were conquerors who had built their civilization on the bones of weaker species. The lead ship immediately opened communications, broadcasting on all frequencies. The face that appeared on screen was terrifying. A reptilian creature with battle scars covering half his skull and eyes that burned with cold ambition. "I am War Commander Theknos of the Corvan Third Fleet," the alien snarled. "By galactic salvage law, we claim rights to all Velati territory and remaining assets. You will withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Captain Jiho stared at the screen in disbelief. "Salvage rights, these people are still alive. We're here on a rescue mission." Theknos laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Barely alive, and not for long. The Velati are finished. Their plague will kill them all within months. We are simply claiming what will soon be ownerless. Your interference is illegal." "They're not dead yet," Jiho replied firmly, "and we're not leaving." The Corvan commander's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You are one small fleet of primitives. We are the Corvan Empire. You have 1 hour to evacuate, or we will remove you." Elder Hyunwoo had been listening to the exchange from the medical center, his newly cleared crystals pulsing with anger and determination. For the first time in months, he felt strong enough to stand and fight, not with weapons but with truth. "Captain Jiho," he said, his musical voice carrying new strength, "I have an idea, but I need access to our old broadcasting equipment." "What?" Hyunwoo planned was simple but devastating. The Velati had always been meticulous record keepers, documenting everything through their crystal memory networks. Every plea for help, every rejected response, every moment of their civilization's darkest hour had been preserved. Working with human technicians, they jury-rigged a galaxy-wide broadcast system using both Velati crystal resonance and human satellite networks. The transmission would reach every inhabited world, every space station, every corner of galactic civilization. Hyunwoo stood before the cameras, his crystal formations now glowing with healthy light thanks to human medicine. Behind him, footage played showing the incredible rescue effort, human doctors working around the clock, children from Earth sending handmade gifts, volunteers singing damaged buildings back to life. "My name is Elder Hyunwoo of the Velathi," he began, his words automatically translated into dozens of galactic languages. 8 months ago, my people sent distress calls to every major civilization, begging for help as we faced extinction. The broadcast showed the responses, or lack thereof, the hegemony's cold rejection, the Trade Federation's cruel calculation, the Corvan Empire's mocking laughter, species after species turning their backs on a dying race. Then came an answer, from a species we had never heard of. Humans, a young race that had barely left their home system. They asked one simple question: how can we help? The footage shifted to show human ships arriving at Kethara, filled not with soldiers or traders, but with doctors and volunteers, children singing lullabies to frightened Velathi patients, engineers learning alien harmonics to repair crystal cities, scientists working day and night to understand a completely foreign form of life, while the great powers of the galaxy debated profit margins and contamination risks. Hyunwoo continued. These humans crossed impossible distances to save complete strangers. They asked for nothing in return except the chance to do what was right. The most powerful moment came when Hyunwoo showed before and after images, Velathi cities dark and dying, then slowly coming back to life with human help. Patients who had been given up for dead now standing healthy and strong. Today, the Corvan Empire claims salvage rights to our world, as if we were already corpses to be stripped for parts. But we are alive. Alive because one species in this galaxy still believes that helping others is more important than personal gain. The broadcast concluded with a simple question that echoed across civilized space. What does it say about our galaxy when the youngest, least advanced species among us shows more compassion than all the rest combined? The response was immediate and overwhelming. Social media networks across hundreds of worlds exploded with shame and outrage. Citizens of the hegemony demanded their government send aid. Trade Federation stockholders called emergency meetings. Even within the Corvan military, some officers began questioning orders. War Commander Theknos found himself receiving frantic communications from his superiors. The political cost of attacking the humans now would be catastrophic. Public opinion throughout the galaxy had turned completely against the Corvan Empire. Within hours, the Corvan fleet was quietly withdrawing, their claims of salvage rights abandoned in the face of universal condemnation. But more than that, something fundamental had changed in galactic politics. The humans had done more than save the Velathi. They had held up a mirror to an entire civilization and forced them to confront what they had become. 6 months had passed since the humans and Velathi began working together, and their world, Kethara, was buzzing with life. The blending of human and Velathi technology had created wonders neither side could have imagined alone. Machines hummed with crystal cores, glowing softly as they powered homes and schools. Fields bloomed with crops that mixed Earth's hearty grains with Velathi's vibrant, nutrient-rich plants. The air felt alive with possibility, and the people, both human and Velathi, walked with a new sense of purpose. This partnership wasn't just about gadgets or crops. It was about trust. The humans and Velathi had formed something special, the Mutual Aid Compact. It was a promise to stand by each other, to share knowledge, resources, and dreams. For the first time, humanity had a true friend in the stars. Other alien civilizations who had always kept to themselves started to take notice. They saw how the humans and Velathi worked together, not out of fear or greed, but because they genuinely cared for each other. This was new. It made other species rethink how they treated their neighbors in the galaxy. Some even sent messengers to Kethara, curious to learn how this alliance worked. On Kethara, the days were filled with small, beautiful moments. In a sunny courtyard, Kiratel, a wise Velathi with shimmering scales, sat with a group of human children. She showed them how to grow memory crystals, delicate structures that glowed with stored knowledge. The kids were amazed, their eyes wide as they watched the crystals pulse with light. "It's like planting a seed," Kiratel said, her voice soft and warm. "You give it care, and it holds your stories forever." The children giggled, trying to shape their own tiny crystals, their hands clumsy but eager. Across the city, young Velathi gathered with human teens from Korea, sharing music under a starlit sky. The Velathi swayed to the rhythm of earth songs, their voices humming along to unfamiliar melodies. In return, they taught the humans their own songs, strange and beautiful tunes that seemed to echo the heartbeat of the planet. Laughter filled the air as they stumbled over each other's words, blending cultures in a way that felt as natural as breathing. In the heart of Kethara, a great hall stood where the Galactic Assembly met. It was a massive dome-shaped building, with walls that shimmered like liquid glass. Representatives from countless worlds gathered there, their eyes, or whatever they used to see, fixed on two figures at the center, Captain Jiho and Elder Hyunwoo. Jiho, with his steady gaze and calloused hands, spoke of the journey that brought humans and Velathi together. "We didn't start as friends," he said, his voice clear. "We were strangers, scared of each other. But we chose to listen. We chose to help. And now we're stronger together than we ever were apart." Elder Hyunwoo, his face lined with years of wisdom, stepped forward. His voice was gentle but carried weight. "Compassion isn't weakness," he said. "It's the hardest choice you can make. It's saying, 'I'll stand with you even when it's not easy.' That's what we've done here. That's what we offer the galaxy." The assembly was silent, their usual arguments and doubts forgotten. For once, they didn't talk about trade deals or borders. They listened, and some began to dream of a universe where kindness was the foundation of strength. Back in the villages, life showed how deep this alliance ran. Human engineers worked side by side with Velathi crystal weavers, building schools that glowed with soft light. Farmers shared tricks for growing food in Kethara's strange soil, laughing as they tasted each other's dishes. Children ran through the streets, human and Velathi together, playing games that mixed tag with Velathi light dancing, their laughter echoing through the night. These weren't just moments. They were proof that two species could build a home together. The galaxy kept watching. A few skeptical worlds sent spies, expecting to find cracks in the alliance. Instead, they saw markets where humans traded fruits for Velathi glowing fabrics. They saw healers combining earth medicine with Velathi crystal therapy, saving lives that would have been lost. The spies went home, their reports filled with stories of unity. Slowly, other worlds started to change. A distant planet, once known for its isolation, invited a human teacher to share stories of Earth. Another species, who had hoarded their resources for centuries, offered to trade with Kethara. The Mutual Aid Compact wasn't just a deal between two worlds. It was a spark, lighting up the galaxy. On Kethara, the people felt it too. One evening, a festival filled the streets. Humans grilled spicy skewers while Velathi shaped glowing orbs that floated like lanterns. Music played, a mix of drums and crystal chimes. Captain Jiho stood on a balcony watching the crowd. A young Velathi tugged at his sleeve, offering him a crystal that pulsed with a soft blue light. "It's my story," the child said shyly. "I put you in it." Jiho smiled, his heart full. He didn't need to speak to know what this meant. The alliance wasn't just about survival, it was about belonging. Elder Hyunwoo joined him, looking out at the festival. "We've done something good here," he said quietly. "Not perfect, but good." Jiho nodded. "It's a start, and it's worth fighting for." They stood together, watching their people, human and Velathi, dance under the stars. The galaxy was vast, and there were challenges ahead, but for now Kethara was a beacon, a place where compassion had built something stronger than any weapon. As the festival continued, a human girl and a Velathi boy climbed a hill to watch the sky. They sat side by side, pointing at the stars. "That's where we're from," the girl said, nodding at a distant speck of light. The boy tilted his head, his scales catching the moonlight. "And this is where we are," he said. They grinned at each other, their hands brushing as they reached for the same glowing orb floating nearby. In that moment, the universe felt small, warm, and full of hope. The story of Kethara wasn't just about two species finding each other. It was about what happened when people chose to build instead of break, to listen instead of shout. The Mutual Aid Compact was a promise, not just to each other, but to every world watching. It said, we can be better, we can care, and together we can make the stars a little brighter. End of story. End of